But Mark, let's move on into our next topic. And actually, this is a special topic here on the Onside Kick because last week we welcomed, I should say, Patrick, Illinois guy. And now we are welcoming, I know you said that you were from Illinois, Christian, but I'm going to call you an Illinois guy because you can take someone out of Illinois, but you can't take Illinois out of the kid, as so they say. But Christian, thank you for joining us here on the Onside Kick today.
Thank you for having me. It's been seems like a long time coming.
No, it has. I've seen you in the comments section. I'm like, you know what? Christian's going to be one that we're going to have on the podcast someday. I can feel it. But we're going to talk about your topic, and it actually fits because this was a topic that in my head, it started to concoct in a different way. Like, I wanted to talk about it last week. I wanted to say, like, who should the Niners draft where they are? But I'm like, you know what? If Jimmy G beats the Jaguars, they're going to be like 8th in the draft, and they're just going to keep falling. So I don't want to do that yet. And then this week, I'm like, I want to talk Jimmy G. I want to talk the 49ers. And you were perfect, Christian. You're like, you know what? I'll talk anything, but I really want to talk Jimmy Garoppolo. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to kind of go a little clickbaity at start, but kind of talk about the 49ers and Jimmy G and this run that they've been on as of late. But I'm just going to ask you, Christian, our clickbaity title, just to get it out of the way. Do you think, based off of what we're seeing so far, does Jimmy Garoppolo make the Niners Super Bowl favorites next year?
I mean, I don't know about Super Bowl favorites, but they're definitely going to be in the contention for that division. I think Seattle's time is coming to an end. Jared Goff is on the incline with Sean McVay, and Todd Gurley's looking like the MVP this year. However, I mean, Jimmy G brought hope, and that's something Jared Goff didn't bring his first year, so it's kind of like a little bit prove it ground, but Jared Goff, but Jimmy G came in, learned the system, learned the offense, and now he's still undefeated. So, I mean, there's definitely hope and some optimistic going on in San Fran.
Well, and it kind of reminds me, Mark, you always say this, and this is exactly what I reminded myself of, is when you get in, like, I think you said it when we talked about Jimmy Garoppolo, when you get a new quarterback who's your franchise, reset everything. So everything before Jimmy G started this year, throw it out the window. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
New times.
Because people were trying to say, like, oh, the San Francisco 49ers, these underdogs and things like that. It's like, no, it doesn't matter. How could the team Chicago was at, after they lost to Jimmy? How could Chicago lose to Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49ers? Because it's Jimmy Garoppolo. It's a new quarterback. The counter has started over. This is a new era. So it changes everything. And I think this is the perfect demonstration of that, of a team that was terrible. All of a sudden, they got this new guy, and it's a new locker room. Everybody feels revitalized. The morale is up through the roof. They're feeling great, and now they suddenly feel like they can win games, and that's what we're seeing right now. I'm glad that Christian dialed it back a little bit of the Super Bowl favorites. Favorites is a little much. Contenders, even Super Bowl contenders, I'm going to say, is probably a little strong at the moment. We'll see how the draft class goes. But the thing I like that Christian brought up is this division kind of is up for grabs in a way. I mean,
exactly.
You got Arizona who's fallen off, and there's rumors about whether or not Arians is going to be back. Arians says it's not true. He will be back.
No, what I heard today is Arians said he's going to take from Monday until February to decide his future.
Interesting.
It's a big window. So from Monday to February, he's going to decide if he's going to stay with the team.
It's not like this playoff game, so he doesn't have much to worry about. Seattle's this weird team that they kind of look like they're aging. They're falling off a bit. The Rams are the new team. They had a pretty good, strong strength of schedule, too, so it's not like that was necessarily the issue of just, they won because they played easy games. That's not even the case, but we'll see if it's a one-year wonder with McVay and Goff. Time's going to tell on that, but I'm not willing to count them off. So you definitely have this battle within California here between San Francisco and L.A., and I think that Jimmy Garoppolo can really make the splash and make this team better to where they are maybe not a favorite to win the division right off the bat, because we are dealing with an 11-4 team out there in the Rams, but a favorite to, at the very least, get into the playoffs.
Well, and the thing I find funny about what we're just talking about is with the division, it's funny how the two teams that just got new head coaches, Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay, they're the teams where it's like, oh, they're going to be good. Like the Cardinals are on the decline. The Seahawks are on the decline, but they're more on the decline, I think, because of their contract issues. Their contract issues, and plus when you're not winning and you're not an 11-4 team, 11-5 team, 12-4 team, then we start to see
locker rooms get antsy.
Exactly. Then we start to see what we saw in Jacksonville. I'm not blaming the Seahawks for that. That's some shithead fans out there. But that's when you get the chippiness on the field with Barrett. That's what I was talking about. But Bennett. That's what I was talking about with that. But the thing I want to go to with the 49ers, and Christian, I'm going to throw it your way. The thing I'm thinking right now, and this could all change in 1 week. This is why I didn't want to make this the main part of the topic. But the thing that right now where the 49ers are, according to Tankathon.com, they're the 8th pick in the draft, right above your guys, Chicago Bears. This might hurt to say this. So if you're weak of heart, Bear fans, cover your ears. What if the Niners were, as of right now, 8th, and they took Calvin Ridley in the first round and said, Jimmy G, here's your guy. Here's our number one threat, and here's the guy you're going to be throwing to next season.
Well, I mean, if the Niners do go ahead and take Calvin Ridley, I mean, if everything stays the same, then I think the Bears would have to go offensive line. But, I mean, for the Niners, that would be huge. Because, I mean, you would start off fresh. You would get a big body in there. I mean, guys got great hands, great leaping ability. And, I mean, if you put anything around Jimmy Garoppolo at this point, it looks like he's going to, turn into a stud. I mean, he's throwing at almost no names out there. I mean, Greg Kittle, have these guys before Jimmy got there?
Yeah, and I mean, here's the thing I want to go to, is if they win. Because if they win and the Bengals, Oakland, and Miami all lose, because that could happen, they would be tied with those teams. If they do win at 6-10, potentially they could be, if they win, the 12th pick in the draft. And the whole thing with Jimmy G is this team's not going to win every game next season. I say that because they've won every game with Jimmy G this season. But I feel like to have success with Garoppolo next season, you got to put something around. You're not going to get Barkley. Barkley's probably going to be in the top 10. No matter how many segments or mock drafts, we have him just out of the top 10. He's probably going to be in the top 10. Calvin Ridley will probably be at the low end of the top 10, maybe even 11 and 12. So it's like, what are you going to do? Or do you look to free agency to say, hey, that's where we're going to get the weapons for Jimmy G?
Well, you got this hot young player, and hot being the key word, and people are going to want to play with him. Yeah. That's really what it comes down to. You're going to be able to attract other players to come to San Francisco and be a part of what they are building. And I think a little bit of the Tom Brady stank is not the right word. That's what I use for Mark Trestman being a part of the team. But the nice smell that comes off of Tom Brady and rubbed off onto Jimmy Garoppolo, people are going to say...
The aroma.
Yeah, the aroma. I want to be a part of that because that's a guy who was... He's associated with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, and we're, for some reason, thinking San Francisco is going to have that.
And you're usually the one to bring up this point, not I.
Yeah.
How many Patriot backups have we seen go on to do kind of good things, but not Tom Brady-like things?
Pretty much all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is the thing with Jimmy Garoppolo with everything right now. The hype is building so high that you do say, like, all right, let's calm down a little bit. Yes, they're on this win streak, but Chicago's a 1-point game. They won against the Texans pretty handedly.
Well, I mean,
the Tennessee Titans was a 2-point game.
They beat the Bears because of Robbie Gould.
Yeah. And right. that was Jimmy Garoppolo's very, very first start. I don't want to say he should have went out there and thrown 5 touchdowns. No one expected that except for the really big Jimmy Garoppolo fans out there. But we got to see a little bit, and it's not like he's coming out there and he's just changing the game immediately. He just revitalized the team that is playing a somewhat soft part of their schedule. He could come out next year and be completely average. He could come out next year and continue the pattern and be absolutely amazing. He could be a Jared Goff. He could be a Carson Wentz. We're just going to have to wait and see for a lot of that. But I think right now, a lot of players are saying, I'm going to want to be a part of what is being built in San Francisco, and that's only going to be the thing to help. It was like Carson Wentz with everybody going over because they want to play with him. Mm-hmm. Same exact thing over on the West Coast now instead of the East Coast.
What are you thinking there, Christian?
I mean, I agree with that completely, especially, I like the term that Mark used, especially the hot new quarterback, because, I mean, the numbers that he's putting up, I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo has the most yards ever in the first 4 starts of the franchise with over 1,200 yards. People are going to notice that, especially wide receivers are going to notice that. They're going to love to get the ball, and they saw it in Kyle Shanahan's offense in Atlanta. I mean, they saw what he could do with Matt Ryan, and what's even better about Jimmy Garoppolo is he picked it up quicker. He picked it up, he learned it, and it's a sophisticated offense. And I think that has a lot to say with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. But, I mean, it's just he's on a hot pace right now. I mean, and this is the best season ever for a team that started 0-9, to rally off this many wins in a row.
Well, and the thing that I'm looking at is, because both of you guys have said it, attracting players to come to play with Jimmy Garoppolo. And for me, if I'm a Niners fan, I'm sitting there and I'm going, you know what? I hope we're there. I would love Jimmy to win this last game, go undefeated with the time here. However, I would love to stay 8th overall and stay where we are right now, because I'm looking, and this is based off of, I have them ordered off of their average for salary. So, I mean, this doesn't play into who's better than who, but just looking at the free agent wide receivers, Terrell Pryor, Mike Wallace, Sammy Watkins, Eric Decker, you got Harry Douglas, Taylor Gabriel, Inman with the Bears, and these aren't like they're going to automatically hit the field. They could re-sign, but I mean, Danny Amendola's here. You've got guys like Michael Floyd. There's no one off this Jordan Matthews. There's no one on this page that I'm looking that's like, that's our number one from free agency. We go and get him. He's our number one, and he's the one Jimmy Garoppolo's going to be pairing up to, basically Tom Brady or Dante Culpepper, Randy Moss style. It's nothing like that to me. That's why if I'm a Niner fan, I think your best bet to add something to Jimmy G is through the draft, especially wide receiver style.
Yeah, and it's always a risk, so there's no guarantees. But right now, I agree with you in the sense of I'm okay with losing to the Rams if I'm a 49ers fan. The Rams, are a good team. Exactly. The Rams are a good team. There's no shame in losing to them and keeping a draft pick.
Here's the thing, though, with the Rams. They might rest their starters.
They probably should.
They have come out and said they might rest their starters come Sunday.
And, yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea in their part. But, if the San Francisco 49ers win and they get a higher draft pick, that's fine. That's all right. You're still going to have good players out there. You'll still have a quality wide receiver you can go for. But I know this team is playing hot right now with this 4-game win streak, but there are quite a few holes that need to be addressed. There's other ways they can go just besides a wide receiver.
Well, I mean, and Christian, I'll ask you the kind of white elephant in the room that I'm thinking of is they can add whatever they want, wide receiver, running back, anything offensively. Just because you add something doesn't mean this type of play is going to carry over with Jimmy Garoppolo from this year to next year. Do you have any doubts like, you know what, maybe after getting a bigger contract, because I mean they could franchise tag him or give him a extension, getting a bigger contract, getting basically the offseason, is there a little bit of like, what if he doesn't live up to the expectations we're building him up to right now?
Oh, I mean, there's always that risk, and I feel like when it comes to the case of Jimmy Garoppolo, that risk is actually pretty high because he has looked great, but I mean, it's such a small sample size. And if you're going to for sure put the nail in the coffin, this is our franchise quarterback, this is it, then you have to be really, really sure that you know what you're getting out of him, that this is the right fit for Kyle Shanahan, especially when 49ers fans, I'm sure, are going to be judging him pretty harshly with being the new head coach with the new quarterback, basically of his choosing, because they could have tanked. They couldn't have they had the choice to not trade for Jimmy G and just, like how you said, tank and, get an even higher draft pick, maybe in the top 5 and get a quarterback, maybe Darnold or Allen or one of those guys. But this is the guy who they went out to get, and if you're going to put your future into it and your franchise into his hands, then you really got to make sure that you use this off season well and play him against the Rams. Because I don't know if they're going to be resting their starters or not. I know you said that there was a report of that, but I mean, it's a lot different when you see what's that Darnold or the defensive tackle for LA. I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
Talking about Chubb?
I'm sorry?
In the draft, talking about Bradley Chubb?
No, for the Rams. The defensive tackle.
Oh, Aaron Donald? Is that who you're thinking of?
Yes, Aaron Donald. And that's what it was. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot different when you see guys like him coming down, So, I mean, I just say the risk is really high. I mean, buyer's remorse can be there. I mean, if you look at the Bears with Jay Cutler, give him a $100 million contract.
Well, and I mean, you could even have drafters remorse. I mean, Kevin White.
Deshaun Kaiser.
Yeah, that too. I like how the Bear fan basically goes, hey, we're going to get it off my team. Let's throw it on the Browns. They've had enough sadness. Let's just throw some more on there. But
they can take it.
I do get what you're saying. And with the 49ers, the thing that I'm kind of thinking about as you were making some of your points, Christian, was basically the fact of, yeah, you might have some buyer's remorse, but in the case of Jimmy G, it's like an article I read on ESPN today. Just shut up and pay the man. Like, this is what you drafted him for. This is what you came in here for him to do. And you know what? I might be bold. I joked with you guys before we recorded as we were talking with you, Christian. I said, you know what? If they win all their games to win out, I might make them my kiss of death next year. Probably not going to happen. However, I wouldn't be surprised if the 49ers next year are that team that we have seen. We saw it too. And I know people are going to get mad at this similarity. They got mad at it when we talked about Jacksonville last week. But 2 years ago, we saw Dallas do the same thing. New quarterback, new running back. They go ahead against an easier schedule, make the playoffs. Then you got this year, Jacksonville, not a new quarterback per se, but a newer team with a new direction under Tom Coughlin. They go against an easier schedule. They're going to make the playoffs. I wouldn't be shocked with a new quarterback. Well, not new because he's there this year, but a better cast of characters around Jimmy G and a weaker schedule because you could be a top 10 team, then going and being like, hey, we're a playoff team in the NFC. The only thing that makes me not want to say that is if it's based off of this year, the NFC has been the tougher conference to try to make the playoffs compared to the AFC.
Yeah, when it comes to the question of do you pay him, do you franchise tag him? They've already talked about how they're willing to franchise tag him, and for what I've said before, and the big reason people got really mad at me because of my opinions on Jimmy Garoppolo, but really why I think the issue for the 49ers was simply this. They got a guy at the tail end who has all this leverage and came out and immediately said, we're going to probably franchise tag him. So if I'm Jimmy Garoppolo, I'm saying, okay, you have to offer me more than the franchise tag. Otherwise, I'm not going to sign a deal because why would I take less money? I'm going to bet on myself. Alshon Jeffrey style. I'll take a 1-year deal. Let me bet on myself.
Or Kirk Cousins style.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins would have rather had the deal. He would have rather had the deal. He didn't want to get franchise tagged.
No, but I'm saying like that's what he's had to do the last 2 years.
Yeah. And for Jimmy Garoppolo, I think that's just the issue. We talk about teams like the Seattle Seahawks falling off because of the amount of money they got to pay off.
Yeah.
We talk about teams like Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers who they have such an amazing quarterback. They should win the Super Bowl every year, but they don't have money to pay other people necessarily. Although actually that's not the best one because he isn't one of the highest paid quarterbacks, but his time is coming for that. So you really get a situation that could be dangerous. If you go out there this offseason and you make Jimmy Garoppolo the highest paid quarterback because you're just going to sit there and let's say he beats the Rams. He won 5 games in a row.
Well, and I mean, that's the thing that I'm sitting here thinking is if you go ahead and give him more than the franchise tag, where do you go ahead and draw the line? Because, I mean, of course, I feel like paying him as the highest paid quarterback is kind of putting the carriage before the donkey or the carriage before the horse. However, like there's part of me that goes, where do you then draw the line if you're not going to make him the highest paid?
Especially if he goes undefeated these 5 games.
Well, and then he'd be undefeated for his career.
Yeah. Very true. A small sample size for sure, but
That's small sample size that's getting bigger, Mark?
It is getting bigger. It's a grower, not a shower, but it's just one of those situations here where, he's shown you so much good stuff, but it's just such a hard thing to evaluate him because everything says he's going to be great. Mm-hmm. And for the 49ers, they might want to jump on him and get him that lesser deal now because who knows, next season it could be huge. You might have to make him the highest paid quarterback after next season. You might not have a choice. So this is when a guy like John Lynch is going to earn his money.
Well, Christian, I'll let you. It's your topic. You brought it into us. You're our guest on this podcast this week. I'm going to let you have the final word. What's your final thoughts on Jimmy G, the 49ers, and anything we talked about today?
Oh, man. I think Jimmy G is going to do great things. I definitely think the Niners know what they have. I feel like they should franchise tag him after this offseason because of the sample size is too small, but you can't let him go. You can't let him walk. Rather, it's you go the Kirk Cousins route and you franchise tag him. Maybe that's not what he wants to do. Or, who's to say that Jimmy G doesn't demand one of the highest paid because he is undefeated or because he knows the system and because, who else is out there? Like you said, they could have the drafters remorse. Guys coming out of college, you're not exactly sure who's going to fit the system. And where they're drafting, there's a lot of teams ahead of them that have quarterback needs. So I think they really have to stick with what they got and give a hard evaluation to Jimmy G this offseason.
Well, thank you, Christian, for joining us. And also thank you for being one of our patrons and supporting us. You don't know how much it means to us to have you on the podcast and have you be a patron of Most Valuable Podcasts. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you guys very much for having me. I enjoyed my time and can't wait to talk to you guys again.
Well, and I'm going to close this out for everyone before we kind of close things up with Christian after we stop recording. But if you're sitting there going, man, how do I become like Christian? How do I talk with Ricky and Mark or Sean and Dave or me and Brandon or me and Johnny on one of our podcasts? Check out patreon.com/Most Valuable Podcast. You support us at the $10 tier. You get to be on a podcast each and every month that you're at that tier. We've had several people say, how do I join a podcast? That is how you do it. Want to thank Christian for his support. Thank Patrick for his support. Thank Jake for his support. Thank Brandon for his support. Although Brandon not the $10 tier. Brandon's kind of slacking.
Yep.
In order to be a guest, Brandon, you got to support us at the $10 tier. Want to thank you guys for supporting us. And more importantly, if you guys sitting there 49er fans, you're like, I want to chime in as well. You can always do it in the comment section. Let us know what you think about Jimmy G, the 49ers, what are they going to do this offseason, and what we can expect from Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49ers next year.